So FedEx just dropped this off. I wanted to make a real quick unboxing video because we're about to install this thing, but I wanted to show you guys how fantastically these things are packed. So RSC literally ships their stuff in a way that it cannot be damaged. I mean, look at this. These things are all individually wrapped and then wrapped again with some padding. Fantastic stuff. Well, would you look at that? We are at Blackout Tinting to do the final piece of Racing Sport Concepts carbon fiber that's going to replace the Segala stuff. And this part really needs replaced. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the vlog. Thanks for pressing play. Today, like I said there in the beginning, we're at Blackout Tinting because it's cold and rainy and gross outside, and we're getting ready for the Pittsburgh International Auto Show, which requires the car to have a couple pieces of Expel replaced because of my own dumb mistakes. But regardless, we are finally replacing the last part of Segala, and it is one of the best pieces that Racing Sport Concept has ever made because it's going to improve the look of this car substantially based on the fact that the Segala part really has not held up well. What part are we replacing today? Well, it's going to be the boomerang. So finally, we're getting this done. Now, from, this is one of those things, those are maybe a 5-footer, because from 5 feet away, it doesn't look that bad. But moving up closer, everything starts to fall apart. The weave is really messy, and the worst part is this part down here. Look at how milky and gross that is. Now, that's not dirt. It will not wipe off. So that is a problem with the carbon fiber itself, delaminating, allowing moisture in. It just looks bad. Now, it didn't look this way to begin with, so obviously these parts are not holding up well over time. Now, what did look the way from the very beginning is the kind of messy weave up here. Their weave really doesn't match anything else aftermarket, and it doesn't really look the best, but we're going to be fixing that today. Not only are we going to be fixing that, but we're going to be dropping some weight off of this too, because as you guys know, every part that I've replaced so far with the Racing Sport Concept stuff has weighed less than the Segala by a significant amount. The side skirts were a hair less, but these ones are also a full length side skirt. So the full length side skirt from Racing Sport Concept literally weighed less than the 3/4 length Segala side skirt. The mirror caps were significantly less. The spoiler was over 5 pounds less. That's how much fiberglass was in the Segala setup. And then the front splitter was about 2.5 pounds less with the dive planes factored in as well. So we're going to weigh everything out and get this replaced and show you the difference in the perfect carbon fiber that is Racing Sport Concepts. Before we start though, I want to make it very clear here, all of these pieces are total replacements. They are not overlays. They're not stick-ons. These will totally replace the carbon flash parts that you would have on your car stock, or in my case, the Segala pieces. And you can tell, just absolutely beautiful, perfect carbon fiber. So before we get started, I just wanted to show you obviously that real milky side and then the RSC version right up against it. I mean, look at the quality difference here. All right, let's get this thing installed. So the first step to removing this entire boomerang is coming in here and removing the scrape armor radiator grill guards. We just installed these, but we got to pop them out. So like I told you, while we were installing them, you can actually pop those clips. If you just push on them, they pop straight out, and then you can remove that entire grill. The brackets and everything else don't really have to come out. So other than that, we have to get to this part, which is behind the door panel. So that's going to be the most involved piece. But the rest of this stuff, like this one here is held on with 2 screws on the back, two T15 screws, and then this one here is held on with 3 10mm nuts on the back side. So super easy to remove those two. This one is a little more involved with the door panel removal, but we'll get it done. So what we got to do, obviously we're going to take something relatively pointy, like a T15 screwdriver, and just push on these clips. Just push them straight back, just like that. Now that clip is loose. So we got 4 clips in there. Once I do all 4, I'm going to take the supplied scrape armor tool here, and I'm going to use this to actually pull that screen out. You can actually clip it in there and lift up a little bit, and then it should come right out. Just like that. So now we have free access to all the bolts in the back. With the grill out, what we need to do is come up inside here and remove the 8mm nuts. You can see one right there. And what those are going to do is actually hold on this part of the boomerang. So once we take those 3 nuts off, we can then remove that piece. Correction, there is actually 4 nuts that hold this on. So once you get all those off, you should be able to just pull it right off. There it is. And over at the bench, guys, this is the Segala part versus the RSC part. You can very clearly see the difference in the quality of the weave, the quality of the smoothness of the finish. just a lot ripply. It's a lot more ripply on the Segala part, whereas on the RSC it's basically glass. Now what's really interesting is when you really start to look at the quality of these, because at the end here, the bump out especially is like super, it's mostly resin. There's almost no carbon fiber there at all. And I can tell already this piece is a lot heavier than the RSC. We're going to weigh them. But if you look at the bump out on the RSC part, it is straight carbon fiber. And again, on the back side, all carbon fiber all the way through. Whereas on the Segala part, there's not even any carbon fiber weave on the back. Like, I don't even know what I'm looking at here. This is probably mostly fiberglass. But let's weigh them and see the difference. So first up, we're going to weigh the Segala part. 7.6 ounces. And the RSC part, turn it over so it's not touching. 3.3. So less than half.
40 horsepower.
40 horsepower, there you go. So again, it's higher quality, actually carbon fiber, which is the big thing. That's why it's so lightweight. So mostly fiberglass with a very thin layer of carbon fiber on it. This one is carbon fiber through and through. A lot lighter weight, and that's just one part of this boomerang. With this piece off, the next step is to remove this really badly milkied piece. There's two T15 screws in here that hold on part of the bracket for the scrape armor grill guards as well, but that's not a big deal. Two 15s up here, and then there's one 15 below the clip here. So with all the screws out, this part will literally just slide right out. Now let's compare this one to the, wow. Yeah, let's compare this one to the RSC. This comparison is not going to be friendly. So here's the comparison of these ones. I don't know how to be nice about this. This is not carbon fiber through and through like it should be. There's fiberglass in it. The weave is messy, and the fact that this thing just started to get really milky on the finish is really disappointing. A lot of people noticed this before I even pointed it out to them, which is again disappointing. But ultimately, you can see the parts are roughly the same. This is carbon fiber, and again, this is going to be heavier. I can tell just by feeling it. But obviously, the part that you're going to see is here, and on the inside, again, just perfect carbon fiber. Whereas with the Segala part, just a messy weave, and this started to delaminate or something. I don't know what the deal is. But even once you slide this into the car intake, you do still see the bottom part where the bolt goes, which is right here, and you could tell that's all delaminated and messy looking. I mean, literally the clear coat's flaking off. And then if you look at the RSC one, it's just literally perfect. And it's funny because this is going to be covered up with a clip, so it doesn't have to look perfect. But at the same time, why not? RSC unit is 1.4 ounces, Segala 3.3. So again, a little less than half the weight. So before we move too much further, guys, I want to let you know that in order to swap all these parts over, we need to look at the backside for the bigger part of the boomerang. We have to swap over these screws. So these screws here, there's 4 of them, obviously. They just slide out. So right here, you can see there was one, I popped it out, slid it into the RSC part. We'll do that with all 4 of them. And then this is ready for reinstallation. So here is just a test fit, and it fits so much better. It's unbelievable, because now you can actually see pretty clearly where the Segala part was rubbing on the Expel. So like I said, that's going to get replaced anyway, but I'm going to leave this piece off because they are replacing this part, and this part does get wrapped. So there's no point in putting everything back together only to have to take this off again. But the quality of just the fitment alone. Now, what's really interesting is when we consider the other side of the door, which this is still Segala. I'm going to show you guys how to replace that in a second too. This is the RSC part that will replace the Segala piece. But once this door is closed with the new RSC stuff, they even accounted for the fact that the weave will continue. So it's the same direction, the same continuation of the weave. There's no weird gap where the weave's going a different way or anything weird like that. It's literally perfect carbon. And it will match all of the other RSC carbon on the car. It's the way it was meant to be. So we did the passenger side. I just wanted to show you that it's all done. I didn't do the driver's side completely because of the fact that they are going to be doing PPF over there, but look at the weave and the quality of this. The fitment is just absolutely perfect. Now, we haven't done the door handle yet, and you can tell the difference in quality here. Especially, there's a spot up here, yeah, right there, where there is no carbon. It's all just resin. That always bothered me, but yeah. So the next part, we're going to go ahead and take the door handle off, but to do so we got to take out the door panel to get to the inside of, there's a couple bolts behind coming through, and there's 2 bolts up underneath here as well. Once we take those off, we can pull off the door handle, then we can replace the cover here. So this will all match, but I am really happy with the fitment and the look of that so far. I mean, look at the gap here. It's like tighter than stock gaps, so that looks absolutely perfect. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the door panel, and in order to do so, we have to come up underneath here and access the 2 T30 screws. Get those out first. Then after that, we're going to come up here to the top and the pull handle here, pop out this cover to reveal another screw. Now with the screws out, we have the 2 7mm bolts removed here, the 2 T30 bolts removed from the bottom. We can just start by yanking on this thing. So I like to start right down here and just grab and pull. So these clips are pretty tough, so you're not really going to break them, but just be careful with them, obviously. Work our way around. There's some more clips up in the front. And lastly, 1, 2. So we are free now. At this point, you're going to take the whole door panel and lift it up off the window track. Just like that. So here we are with the door panel off, guys. This is going to be the same on both sides. So driver's side and passenger side, you're going to see this access panel here. It's kind of like rubbery, and you can actually grab it and peel it back. So if you see, there's like a rubbery substance there that's going to start coming with it once you break the seal. And this is reusable, so don't worry too much about it. And as you're pulling it away, we're going to gain access to the inside or the inner door skin itself, and in here is where we're going to get to the bolts for that door handle on the outside. So once we get the rubber part pulled away, you can come in underneath here and see the bolts that we're going to have to undo. So right there are the bolts, as well as the electrical connector that comes down there. We'll have to undo that as well, and that's all going to come out the front of the car. So once we get those bolts off, you'll see there's 3 of them. There's also a clip right there and over there. You're going to have to depress that clip as well and press it forward towards the front of the car. So after you get the 4 nuts off the back side of the handle, you got to come up underneath, and there are 2 T30 screws that will have to come off as well. Once you get those off, the handle will come off. And just like that, we have the Segala unit out. Now, this is kind of what you're going to be working against on the inside of the door panel. There's a gray clip and then the electrical clip itself. You got to pop both those off and then just pull it through the hole in the door panel. So now we're going to go ahead and replace that piece, which, like I said, look at the end of this where there's nothing but resin right there. And even on the inside, there's lots of use of resin and fiberglass, so let's swap them out. So this is the Segala unit. If we take the comparable RSC, number one, you can tell there's a good bit of difference in color. This has almost a goldish appearance to it, whereas this is more black and gray. You can see that we've got screw holes on the back side of these. These have to be screwed into the door unit. First step for this is to get the rubber part of this off. So you can just start kind of pulling it, and the rubber will come off the back side of the unit. You want to be careful with it to not tear it, but you got to kind of manhandle it a little bit. After you get the rubber off, which we'll be reusing, we're going to go ahead and remove T20 screws. One right there, one down in there, one down in here, and then one right beside it right there. So those are T20 screws. We're going to remove all those, and that's going to separate the electronic part from the Segala piece. And I can see on the backside especially, there is no carbon fiber showing through here, so this is definitely not a true carbon fiber piece. So we're going to weigh this as well. Next, we have to start to separate this unit. So on the backside here, you can see these clips. There's 4 of them, and you may think that's what you want to do next, but it's actually not. We want to separate this from the front side first and then do those clips last, or else you'll break the clips. So any kind of pry tool, in this case I have this little pry bar thing, I can stick it in there and just run it along here basically, and it's going to separate the 2 pieces. And as you can see here, we have that side separated. Now we can go ahead and start pulling on the clips on the back here, and it should slide out pretty easily after that. The clips, you'll break them if you start with those first. You want to start on the lower side and separate them first, because there are little clips inside there, as you can see. So We'll undo the clips now, and then we should be left with just the 2 pieces. Hopefully no more than 2, if you know what I mean. And then after that, those 2 pieces should just separate.
Wow, look at all that carbon back there. Not a bit.
Yeah, not 1 single ounce of carbon fiber on the back side of this. This is definitely, wow, look how thick that is too. Whatever it is a carbon laminate. I mean, you could tell by right there, the color, that looks like it's just plastic. That is definitely going to weigh more than the RSC version. Let's see. That's what we're all about, weighing the winnings here. We got to weigh these things. Okay, so the stock Segala unit, 4.5 ounces. RSC, 2.6. Literally almost half.
That's 80 horsepower right there.
So we're saving weight. We're looking way better at this point. So this was going to go on pretty similar to the way that one came off, but RSC does provide new screws because their screw holes in the back of this are a little bit smaller than the stock ones, so you don't reuse the stock screws here. And you can see here, that's what I'm putting in. Those are going to be what holds the new RSC piece to the factory electrical connecting part here. So all 4 screws will be replaced. You will not reuse the stock ones. There is the finished unit, weighing less, looking better, looking way more OEM, only without that brownish tint. You guys know I don't like the brown tint. Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! Look at it! But anyway, after this is all done, we'll go ahead and put the rubber piece back on, and then we are ready to throw this back in the door, and we have one side completely done. Here it is, ready for reinstall. We're just gonna feed the electrical wire back through the door, put all the screws back in, pretty much the opposite of disassembly, and then we're pretty much good. All right, guys, so I was going to save this for the behind the scenes, but I'm going to put it in here anyway. We were putting all this stuff back together. We had all the bolts back on, and Dana's going to hook up the wire in the back, and he says, what the heck? He's like, this wire doesn't seem like it's long enough now. And I was like, well, we didn't mess with the wire, so what's the problem? And he's in there, and he shows me it's like a foot short, and then I'm looking at the door, I'm like, what could possibly be the problem? Yeah, we had that amount of wire pinched. So make sure you pull the wire all the way through before you start tightening down your bolts. And there it is, guys, completely done. The biggest difference you're going to notice is the actual gap, the stock sized gap, because whenever Segala's was on there, that gap was really, really tight, like to the point where it was almost too tight. And if you look at the stock cars, that's the gap that you normally get. And again, the weave continues through like it's one solid piece. Everything fits really nicely. Looks really good. Matches all the other RSC. We are finally de-Segalified. This car is fully RSC carbon fiber at this point, with a little bit more to come in the future. The driver's side is not done yet because I got to get the expel done over there, and then I'll finish that up. But ultimately, the boomerangs are perfect carbon fiber from RSC. Really good stuff, guys. I mean, I'll try to give you the best view possible of the fitment, but it is really, really good. It basically looks factory without the brown tint. All right, guys, so that is it. That's the install. Like I said, we got the front splitter dive planes from RSC Racing Sport Concepts, the side skirts, which are full-length side skirts, Racing Sports Concepts, the carbon fiber mirror covers, which are actually not covers, they're complete replacements for the caps, Racing Sport Concepts. Now the boomerangs in perfect carbon. Man, I'm really happy with the way that those look. Perfect carbon, Racing Sport Concepts. The Z07 style wing in perfect carbon. Don't mind the dirtiness. This car's getting cleaned up as we speak. Racing Sport Concepts. And then, of course, the rear diffuser, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, on this car is, of course, Racing Sport Concepts, all carbon fiber. So everything looks really good, fits really well, and of course just the Racing Sports Concepts in general just takes the carbon fiber game to the next level. This over on this side is not done. I didn't finish this yet because this whole panel needs the expel replaced on it, and they do wrap inside of the area where the boomerang sits. So I'm going to finish that up on Monday after they finish this. I do have the driver's side boomerang part done, the door handle part. So all that's left is just this part here, and then we are good to go. But again, Perfect carbon fiber, looking great. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the video. So if you liked what you saw, smash the thumbs up button. Let me know you're liking the content. Check out the link in the description down below for all of the Racing Sport Concepts carbon fiber. Save 10% by using the code HPO10. Subscribe if you haven't yet, guys. I got a ton of content like this coming you're not going to want to miss. And as usual, stay obsessed.